Hi, sweetness. Hi, son. Good Monday morning to you. Hey, Claire Dog, Ravishing Rick, and all you other Jim Dandy Jimmy Jommers out there. I just want to say, don't follow me. Don't like or subscribe. This is just a vlog for me to talk to my daughter who lives 1,000 miles away from me. And also to mention a couple of Marine Corps buddies and my son. So anyway, I was at Caliber's and they had this Colt Government model in the case, and I said, oh yeah, it's a nice price. I want one of those. So I got it. The history of the thing is the U.S. government back in the early part of the 20th century, they were fighting Moros over in the Philippines. This is how, one of the stories goes. And they needed something with more stopping power. And so they were using a .38. And so they decided the Thompson-Lagarde test. If you've ever read the Thompson-Lagarde test, it sounds like a couple of drunks took a handful of guns and a bunch of ammo and wandered on down to a stockyard and started shooting cattle, and there was no method to their madness. It was pretty silly, but they did, and they ended up adopting a 45 ACP automatic Colt pistol, John Moses Browning, and all that la la la. And so then for X number of years, and the legend is that 2 world wars, and you say, well, what the fuck happened in Korea and Vietnam, asshole? And that'll shut them up pretty quick. But the gun, the Colt, yeah, it's a great pistol. Yes, I love it. I love shooting it. I love owning them. I now own 4 or 5 1911 or 1911 likes. This is the only 1911 because it's an actual Colt. But I have 2 Colts. One's an officer's model. This one's a government model. But I got Kimber, I got Sig, and I even have a couple of TSOS. So I love it, but this has got these gorgeous redwood grips on it. Instead of using a roll mark on them, they now use these laser engraving, which personally for me, I think they look fine. I don't mind them. But in the 1911 was the M1911A or 1911, and it had a flat mainspring housing. It had this big old long trigger. This was not cut out right here. And it had a pretty skinny front sight. And so starting in 1921, the government said, hey, we want a couple of improvements. So they made this arched mainspring housing, and they shortened the trigger, and they put these 2 cutouts right here, and they made the front sight a little wider. That became the 1911A1. So some things about it, and that went on till like 1926. But even into the World Wars and stuff, you still, one might have an arched mainspring housing and a long trigger. Another one might have the opposite, the short trigger and the flat mainspring housing, because they just changed them as they got parts. It wasn't one big thing that they just did. But 1926 was the official date that they said, okay, they're all 1911A1s now. So some of the things they took they took that angle of the pistol grip and this safety from the Luger, because the cavalry wanted it, the German Luger. And they put this lanyard staple on here for the cavalry, and they put this thumb safety for the cavalry. And when I say cavalry, I mean guys in 1911 that actually rode horses. That was their military job, to ride horses into battle. And they did. So that's why they have all this stuff. Me personally, when I carried a 1911, I never bothered with this safety, because I'll tell you what, you whip this out in an emergency, and you're probably not gonna, because I've seen it happen. The guys would at matches, shooting matches, guys would get this their 1911s, and they would have the safety on, and the timer would start, and they would pull them out and squeeze, but they couldn't fire it until they flipped that safety off, and then they could start shooting. And I hear it so many times, oh, you could train through that. Yeah, most people don't train through that, especially the people who say, oh, you could train through that. Yeah, no, you don't, asshole. So when I carry the thing, I don't even bother with this. I just keep my finger off the trigger because this gun will not shoot unless the finger's on the trigger. And then it was in the 70s and the 80s, and I remember reading this in gun magazines back then, Guns and Ammo, American Rifleman, Soldier of Fortune, even, and the whole handgunning craze. And it was started by Colonel Jeff Cooper. And I know there are some criticisms of him, and they're probably fair criticisms, but the criticisms are not. He is the guy that started the offensive handgun, that fighting handgun thing, and he used 1911s, and that's what they used. He started a shooting school called Gun Sight, and he started the shooting competitions, the practical shooting, IPSC I think it was, and a couple others, and they were all shooting 1911s, and in .45 caliber. Those people who tried to shoot lesser caliber, like 9mm 30, they were penalized because it was a minor caliber, minor major caliber. So two of the things that they said, oh, well, the original 1911, it had a flat mainspring housing and this long trigger, and we should go back to that. And for whatever reason, and nowadays you go in to buy a 1911, they all have the long trigger, they all have the flat mainspring housing. Fortunately, they're easy guns to work on, and you can get parts. So I changed these out, and now this gun is more to my liking. So even though I'm not going to carry it, it's still more to my liking. Alright, well, that's about it. That's the history lesson, and that's the gun. I've actually had this gun for several months. I just had to clean up my OnlyFans studio here so that I could actually start making some. Another thing too, Colt. Colt only gives you one magazine. That's it in the box. One 7-round magazine. You can buy, like, these are 8-round magazines, and I got like a whole lot more than just this, but you can buy these Colt 8-round magazines. But Colt, Smith & Wesson gives you 2. They used to give you 2 magazines. I think other companies did too. And then Glock started giving 3 magazines. Now everybody's giving 3 magazines. Everybody except Colt, which still only gives you 1 magazine. So that's the story of this. All right, I love you guys. Take care. And until next time, by the way, there's a bonus video coming up.